Well, today's topic is everyone. Is it possible to earn system income even without ability? That's the question. Everyone, no matter what, who should we focus on? We need to bring in beginner business owners and those outside who dislike Atomy because they think it's a multi-level marketing scheme and help them settle in as our people. So I'm going to share those skills and know-how with you one by one. First of all, is it possible to earn system income even without ability? If you ask me that question, I can confidently say yes, because I'm that kind of person myself. That's why I confidently say, even on broadcasts, that this is the only tool that can make ordinary people rich, the only way to save the middle class and help regular people become wealthy. That's what I always say. But as people start doing this, one of the misconceptions they have is thinking that you need a lot of money to succeed. Of course, having a lot of money does give you some advantages. But I've also tried doing it with money, haven't I? And I'm really grateful for having that experience. If I hadn't had the experience of doing it with money, I might have just agreed and wondered, yeah, why am I always so short on money? I would have kept saying things like, if only I had more money, things would have worked out better, and held on to that kind of regret. But I've actually tried it with money too. When my husband was really growing, but this business is something that really can't be done with just money. So actually, what I want to say is this. In my experience, what's more important than money is experience. But let's say you gain a lot of experience and then you also have capital. What do you think will happen then? It becomes an incredible super ompang. Do you know what ompang is? In my mentor's words, it's talent. Talent. Atomy's talent. So even someone like me, an ordinary person without any special abilities, is now safely receiving what others envy, the system income within Atomy's system. Now, as I share my journey with you, one of the common mistakes beginners make is that when outsiders reject them, calling this a pyramid scheme, they get discouraged. And when you approach someone and they say, oh, I don't do that kind of thing, how do you feel? You get hurt, right? Yes, there are some of you who say from the very beginning, I'm going to start Atomy. You need to let go of that mindset. It's not that outsiders dislike you, they just dislike multi-level marketing. So you need to get used to rejection. Recently, I think it's been about a year and a half since I really felt certain I'm going to do this. That partner first shared this with their family, right? But after getting hurt by their family's reactions, they became afraid. Then that partner brought someone to me, someone who wanted to hear more, someone who had worked in insurance for 20 years. So they came to our center, and as they watched what I was doing from the side, what do you think happened? Of course, they'll listen better now, right? Human nature. Even things they've heard before. When you bring your partner to listen, the person you brought actually ends up listening even more intently. They really pay attention. Then that person said their uncle lives nearby. They said they have relatives here and that they definitely want to sign up before they leave. So what do you think happens next? They lost their fear of rejection. And originally, they only used to stay around their own neighborhood, but now they've even come all the way to Seoul. So I said to them, now that your body is able to go beyond your own neighborhood and even venture outside, it shows you've become much stronger, boss. And it turns out they even managed to get someone to sign up. In the end, everyone, as time goes by, you do become a bit stronger. But what was great about that person was that they were good at being consistent. Even if they didn't throw themselves into it completely or go all in, they thought, well, there's nothing to lose, so I'll just keep at it. Thinking, let's just hang in there. They kept using their own products and continued to show up in the system. But even though they didn't go all in, what happens in the end? As they got older and started having health issues, they realized the value of this system income and thought, I really need this. So they made up their mind. So after signing up for insurance, someone said to them, why don't you listen to an Atomy business presentation? That's how they ended up joining. But do you know what's even funnier? They did the fourth stage for 20 years. No, I mean, they did multi-level marketing. This person had been in insurance for 20 years. And what they said was they used to do Amway. In other words, they were someone who only used Amway products. So since they were doing insurance, using Amway products and attending seminars, what do you think happened with the people around them? Of course, people who were into multi-level marketing or Atomy must have approached them. But they said they've never signed up, not even once until now. So I asked, why didn't you ever sign up? And they said, because I only dug one well, just insurance. Doing insurance for 20 years is pretty impressive. So they simply didn't have the time or energy to do anything else. But they really disliked the whole mutual support thing and hated when people pushed too hard. But the boss who got our guy to sign up didn't seem like someone who would bother them because he's pure and kind-hearted. They thought, oh, that person won't bother me, so they signed up. But in the end, from what I see, it's better to just take it easy. Don't push people too hard. Of course, if someone who seems capable does it, they'll probably do well. But if you get too desperate and clingy, it actually has the opposite effect. So this person is the type who takes a long time, like a stew that needs to simmer. And it takes time for a stew to really start boiling. It takes a while, but slowly and steadily. Still, thank you. Once it starts boiling, you gain confidence, right? Then as this person starts to understand and gradually begins to use the products, they become even more enthusiastic. And as their speaking skills improve, things go even better. So it's important for you all to approach this with a relaxed attitude. Also, remember that rejection isn't because they dislike you, but because they dislike the multi-level marketing itself. Accept this, but also work on building your resilience. So what is our role, everyone? Thank you. So far, so take a look, everyone. It's our job to change the negative perception of multi-level marketing that people around us have. If we do this by switching to Atomy Mart, consumption turns into income. You all know this already. But for me, when you approach your partners, you don't start with them as partners. You first introduce them as consumers. I'll teach you how to duplicate that. The reason my membership grows so quickly and smoothly is because of this. This is how I do it. I bring a notebook with me. And when you have a meeting, everyone, one-on-one meetings are best. Because if you bring 3 or 4 people at once, if there are 3 people and even one of them is negative, then even if 2 are positive, the whole atmosphere falls apart. So what happens is when people hear that I'm coming, they try to gather a lot of people. I told them not to do that. If just one household gets interested and wants to hear more, that person can ask questions and we can have a real back and forth conversation. Then, as things get explained and discussed, I can check if that person really understands, and that's how it should go. But if you just gather a bunch of people together, then nothing gets communicated properly. That's why, at first, we all want to introduce the membership right away. Why? Because there's no joining fee and no maintenance fee. People say it will just spread downwards. But as you can see, it doesn't really happen that way. Why is that? It's because you didn't explain things in a way that people could actually understand. That's why the membership isn't spreading downward. But if you explain it in a way people can understand, there's nothing for them to lose. So why aren't new members joining? It means that I'm not communicating the information properly. So what I do is I just open up my notebook and then this is what I write, boss. This is what I write. From the start, I number them 1, 2 like this. Then you can see it clearly, right? I usually say this about Atomy. Out of 10 people, I tell them to talk about this and that first, and I write it down like this. Products. The products are good. My Chinese teacher, since Atomy is in Chinese, there were probably a lot of people around her who had already done Atomy, right? They signed up and all that. But since they kept thinking of it as a sales thing, they never really took the time to properly learn about Atomy. But as I kept doing it, this time for the first time, she really understood something. I drew it out for her like this. Teacher, there's number 1 and number 2. Usually when it comes to membership, my teacher wasn't very good at signing people up. So I wondered, why can't she sign people up? What's the reason? So I explained it to her. I had explained it before, but I did it again. There's number 1 and number 2, but usually everyone starts explaining from number 2. When I told her that, she said, oh, that's what I did. That's what I did. But I learned that you shouldn't start from number 2. We were taught to start by explaining from number 1, that there's no sign-up fee and no monthly maintenance fee. Teacher, please think about it. Why do people dislike the? It's because it feels uncomfortable, like you're being forced to buy something, or like someone is pushing things you don't even need, so it feels burdensome. So when someone tries to introduce you to the business, even though you're not interested in doing it yourself, it feels awkward, right? And they said, yes, that's true. So even if they use Atomy products around them, they themselves say, I'll just buy it with your ID without signing up myself. I'm not going to do it, so you use it. That's what they've been doing up until now. But once you change that perception, what happens? For us, if we start talking from number 1 instead of number 2, there's no pressure. And if you just tell them about the benefits for the consumer, that's enough. When I said that, they said, oh, that's easy. That's how it turned out. And this person was already using the products. But once they understood this, you know what happened? Before, they would only order enough to get free shipping. But once they understood, things changed. I told them, teacher, I can't sell either. I only sell to myself. But do you know what's good about this? I only sell to myself, but the fact that I can help someone else, that's what makes this a business you can do with confidence. So once they understood that, what happened next? They bought about 60,000 won worth in Korean won, but then said their son had acne. So including the acne set, they ended up buying about 120,000 won worth. Why? Because by selling to me, they could help someone else. So they said, thank you. They asked if there was anything else that was running low. And then they started asking me about toothbrushes. Since I was tutoring at our center, there were some toothbrushes there, but they said they had never used a toothbrush before. So I asked, you've never used a toothbrush before? So I gave them a sample, and after trying it, they said, wow, it's so soft. That's how it all started. But do you know what's really important, everyone? Once they understood that there was no pressure, I explained the monthly maintenance fee. And since their parents had done Nu Skin before, they had experienced how things like monthly maintenance fees and deadlines can make people uncomfortable. So they assumed Atomy would be the same. They thought, if I keep going like this, there must be something more if I dig deeper. But I kept consistently following up to show them that wasn't the case. Now that I think about it, it's been about a year since my teacher and I started this. Since we started the tutoring. After a year of tutoring, that trust has built up, and now they trust me as a person. And as they started to trust what I was saying, their perception changed. But at first, because I was talking about infinite levels and infinite accumulation. And you know, Chinese people tend to be quite skeptical. So they even bought it themselves with their own ID to check if it really increased by 100%. So after doing that, they just used the product and stopped. But now they need to be introduced and go down the line, right? But as I kept doing this, what I realized is that there's a misconception among people who only know Atomy superficially. And this is what I discovered. People who only know things superficially. So they think they know everything. They say, I know Atomy. But what these people who claim to know still don't really understand is the concept of unlimited levels, even when you explain it to them. If you haven't experienced it yourself, it's hard to really understand, right? And among those things, there are also things like A and B. Let's say there are A, B, C, D, E, and F. Then do you absolutely have to fill up A to 300,000 points, then fill up B to 300,000 points, then C to 300,000 points, and go in that order? Is that necessary or not? Not, right? It's just that you choose and focus here, right? So I kind of knew about it in a vague way, like my teacher does. I used Atomy products, signed up a few times, so I thought I knew a bit. But what I was saying is that you need to choose and focus. And among them, that was me. Once you reach 300,000 points, you should only purchase with your own ID once a year. Next, when you have A, B, C, D, E, and F, instead of distributing your support among them in order, don't spread yourself thin. Just pick the person you want to nurture. And even if you might be wrong, focus your support on that one person. So you should focus your efforts like that. And then suddenly someone asks, what are you doing? Huh? They said, I thought that once each of these reached 300,000 points in order, it would move down. But actually, this is how it works. In the past, someone who only vaguely knew about Atomy mentioned something like this, and for a moment, I forgot about it too because it was so long ago. Recently, we realized that we didn't really know about this either, and it suddenly came to mind. If you only have a vague understanding of multi-level marketing and Atomy, you could easily miss this point as well. So please keep this in mind. So thank you. We talk about getting people to sign up on the left and right sides of the genealogy chart, right? Among those who only have a vague understanding, what we need to quickly teach them about line development is that in the field, we need to pick up speed and build our teams quickly. If you want to grow A, you shouldn't attach your contacts to both sides of A, but only to one side. And don't attach them to both sides of B either. Explain why you should only attach them to one side. How do you explain that? For example, when members are placed down the line, remember, we don't have any demotion clauses. But let's say you place a member here and our points are low and the prices are cheap, right? But let's say I put in 100,000 points here. Anyway, I have to recruit a lot of people, right? So even if you have a really capable person here, if they're only connected to this person, they can't get any support. And since there's nothing visible to show for it, no matter how great a person you sign up, there won't be anyone who gets completely immersed and obsessed with Atomy. Even if they end up quitting or moving to another line, That's just how it goes. So when I explain this, people realize, I really need to develop my lines well. That's what they say. You have to explain this much too. This is how the connections are made. And don't spread things out. Since you, boss, are the one who wants to do the business and are interested, you should be the only one placing people on both sides. That's what you should say. And what I said to my boss was, teacher, you're someone who does things half-heartedly. When it comes to succeeding in Atomy, people are often mistaken. They think that the sponsor will build one side for them, right? So that's what they say. But think about it carefully. The idea is that after one side is built for you, the other side will automatically grow, but that means you have to build one side by yourself. But I will help you with both sides, so build on both sides. Then, as you work on both sides, you'll naturally learn how the sponsor supports you. So what happened? As you also work on two lines, just like your sponsor, what happened? Your membership will keep growing smoothly, right? So as you teach, you also learn. If you say one line is done, so you handle the other side, then you can't help your teacher. Why? Because if you make them responsible for one side, how can you help with the other? But then people start to realize this. These days, people who have no experience with network marketing, but follow exactly what I say, tell me, wow, working with two lines is so much more comfortable. Why is that? By extracting and having the sponsor follow along, learning and experiencing together, and learning how to support others. Even if I don't have a sponsor, the system will run on its own. Why? Because they've learned what to do. But sometimes there are requests made to the sponsor. Let's say you've made an agreement with that sponsor. Then, in order to keep that promise, the sponsor will do whatever it takes to make it happen, right? After that, the rest is up to you to handle on your own. But what do people say? If the other side asks for help too, will the sponsor help them? Of course not. Why? Because they're asking to be supported underneath. So what I've seen is that people who work with two lines over time end up with greater rewards, fewer conflicts, and their duplication works much better. So as you keep doing this, at first, two lines might seem difficult, but as time goes by, it gets easier. These days, that's what we keep saying within our organization. And many people here have started to spread the word. They say, you have to do two lines. Some people even do more than two lines. They're working on 4 lines. Why is that? When each of their partners comes in, that's both sides, right? So they say, oh, I can even handle 4 lines. That kind of confidence starts to build. Duplication is really important. As you keep doing this, people underneath naturally start saying, that's right, 2 lines are easy, easy, easy. Don't you want to hear people saying things like that? Isn't it much nicer to have someone who says, wow, 2 lines are so easy, rather than a partner who always says, sponsor, you must secure at least 1 line, move your points down? To make that happen, it has to start with me. You understand, right? Because as time goes by, it's like a game for the partners too. They'll know how that person works. Then they'll realize, oh, that's why that person is successful, or that's why that person isn't doing well. They'll catch on to it. And if that happens, there could be people leaving the organization. So whose fault is it then? It's my fault. That's why I have to take action first. You understand, right? Then please break down the monthly maintenance cost in numbers. Because when we think of multi-level marketing, we often think we'll go bankrupt, that we'll lose a lot. But how much is our maintenance cost per year? You can just buy a single piece of candy in Korean won, and that's only 300 won. So you only need to buy 300 wons worth per year. So then, is there any reason for people to go bankrupt? So it turns out you won't go bankrupt. That's not bad. That's how people end up accepting it. But in other networks, with a binary system like this, if it's 100,000 won a month, that's 1.2 million won a year. If it's 1.2 million won in Korean currency, then with 10 people, that's 12 million won. With 100 people, that's 120 million won. That's why people go bankrupt. So they started nodding in agreement. These numbers, you have to break it down into numbers for your partners to understand. That's how you can tell whether a company is good or bad. Recently, there was someone who was also looking for something. But you know, PM, the company is going to deliver it as a product. But everyone does this. They deliver it as a product, saying that it helped them. Of course, product is important in system disinfection, but you have to see whether you can do it and whether your partner can do it. Juice is good, it works, but that's not what's important. That's why you absolutely have to explain Atomy's marketing plan with numbers. So even people who approached because of the product will realize this is the kind of company I was looking for. Then after consistently following up, once they really understand the business marketing plan, they say they'll bring their friends who had the same experience. So they bring their friends, and once they understand, it seems like they'll work hard together. This is really important. What is it? Make sure to deliver the information accurately. You understand, right? And also, don't just start by pushing the products. First, explain that as the membership grows, sales will naturally follow. When talking to your consumers, they might say, "Teacher, just sell it to me, only to me." But I can't even sell it myself, right? It's the same for everyone. You can't sell it either. Please just sell it to me. Well, you can sell it well to yourself. That's what's important, everyone. As you keep doing that, you might think, "I've been selling hard to myself. Maybe I should try giving out my own samples too. Should I try it this way too? Or maybe try giving it out that way." You have to grow it little by little. But if you say, "Boss, just invest about 5 million won, go ahead and invest 5 million won and do it," would they do it? Oh, that would shock them. So you need to let them approach it step by step. That's the point.